Welcome to Growth with Portia, a weekly conversation for your personal and professional growth. Here is your host, Portia Booker.
Hey, listeners, welcome to Growth with Portia. I'm your host, Portia Booker, and yes, this is my real name. So, question for you, did you bring your curious mind today? If so, I don't want to keep you waiting. Let's dive in. So, today is a extra special day in Growth with Portia history. It is your host's 31st birthday. And one key lesson I learned in 2022 is the importance of rest. And to be honest, y'all, I had to break away from the mindset that rest is for the weak, when indeed rest is a component of maintaining our strength and energy. I remember some of you may recall this quote that went around on Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media you follow thoroughly on, where it mentioned, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll make time for your illness. And that set the tone for me to really incorporate rest on a daily basis, whether it's a nap or taking time to draw, just unplugging and disconnecting. So, question for my listeners today: when was the last time you gave yourself permission to rest? And what will it take for you to incorporate rest in your daily life? Let that sink in. So today, I have the honor and pleasure of being joined by another producer who puts the high in the word hype. She is on a mission to help women to use their voice and feel empowered, knowing they can make an impact. So welcome to Groove Portia, my soul sister, the energy producer herself, Miss Jaime Kravitz. How you doing today, Jaime?
Oh, Portia, we're glowing up right now. We're glowing up because we're here with you. We're feeling good.
Hey, you know what? I feel good too. It's my 31st birthday. I made it another solar around the sun. I'm here full of energy, full of life, and full of breath. And Jaime, I got to start off my conversations always with gratitude. What are you grateful for today?
Today, and I know every day is different. Today, I actually had to do a mindset check. I had to give myself a little check-in, and because I was feeling overwhelmed. And because I was feeling overwhelmed, I wasn't feeling grateful. And I zoomed out, I paused, I did take a moment with myself, and I zoomed out, and I looked at the bigger picture, and I said, oh, I am living the life that I desired and manifested. How could I be sad or stressed or frustrated when I am indeed living the dream that I called into? So I chose about 3 hours ago to stop right there, dive in deep, and go right into that gratitude. So today I am grateful for being too busy. I'm grateful for the success that I've created for myself unexpectedly, right? Expectedly, I knew I could do it. But being too busy, I'm actually grateful for that today. I'm grateful for what I've been able to manifest. And I'm grateful for the rest that is to come because I desired it and I finally set aside the time to do it for me. And so I'm grateful for those 3 major things today.
Oh, Jaime, you touched on one key thing, the fact that you're grateful for being busy. When at one point, I know both me and you can attest that busyness was more what I call kind of the hamster wheel of the grind at one point.
Yes.
where busyness equated to the societal prescription narrative of this is your life, this is what you're going to continue to do. There's no such thing as downtime. There's no such thing as breaking away from the common trajectory that has been placed before us in this world. And I also want to piggyback, Jaime, on another thing that you mentioned about taking that time to disconnect, regroup, and say, wait a minute, let me look at the big picture. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, but I can turn this overwhelm into an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And Jaime, for you, what did it take for you to be able to reach that level of I'm converting my overwhelm into an opportunity and zooming out and remaining present in the moment? What did it take for you to really incorporate being present in your everyday?
It's actually taken the investment of aligned coaching because I could not have done it for myself. I needed the accountability. I used to wear busyness, overworking, being a quote unquote workaholic. I used to wear it like a badge of honor. And I know you feel the same. I had to get into this. Before I go forward, I got to go backwards because I look back at that life and I even see people in my industry that I know and I love and I trust, and they're doing it. You know, they're so proud and they're telling the world, I am so overworked and I'm just going to keep on grinding. And you should validate me because I'm grinding and I'm a workaholic. And I had to learn that there is no honor in that. That is dishonoring yourself, your body, your mind, your soul. But I needed the appropriate coaching to get there. I could not have done it by myself. Is that fair?
That is fair.
I needed someone to be able to speak with me once a week and hear, you know, it wasn't too many weeks ago that I had this conversation that they were able to analyze and say, can you zoom out for a second? And we talked about the stressors I was dealing with. And then we realized, and by we, she guided me to help realize all on my own that all my stressors were good stress. And if I zoom out and I look in the past, the stress that I was experiencing before I had this business was all bad stress. And it was bad stress because I had no control. I had no autonomy. At least I felt that way. Let's be clear. We always have a choice. I chose, hold on, accountability wise, we have a choice. I look back and I now realize I chose to stay there. And because of that, I became bitter and resentful. And that is what happens in human design for a projector. That is the telltale sign you're unaligned. But I didn't really learn about my human design until, let's say, within the past year and a half or so. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is making sense. And this is a guide stone. And I can relate to this if I start abiding by this and respecting myself in these ways and knowing that bitterness is a big old red flag. Every time I feel that bitterness, I know I'm out of alignment. And it is every day that I have to work on it. So these are daily practices that I am working hard to create into really positive habits. But it's one step at a time.
That part right there, Jaime, of one step. I think when we branch off from the mainstream, we're still imprisoned by what I call the corporate armor, where we believe that this way of thinking, these actions, all of these things are the way that the world really and truly is. When we both know, when we step off into being business women and being business owners, there's a whole new mindset of unlearning the toxic behaviors, the bitterness, right? Recognizing and building our self-awareness muscle. And Jaime, I got to ask this. When you find yourself falling into that bitterness hamster wheel of shame, what does your inner critic tell you? And how do you silence that inner critic when it's trying to pull you into that bitterness wheel?
The first step is the self-awareness and the learning of how you operate. Because as soon as I learned what that bitterness meant, then I could be aware of it. And then I could start breaking and pulling at these strings to figure out, why am I feeling this way? But this is a new skill for me. So I'm not coming with all experience. Am I a successful businesswoman? Yes. Am I continually working on myself every day in a baby step? And yeah, I'll be honest, that negative voice, she's rough. That internal critic, she is the harshest. And I have to work and remind myself of how I speak to my closest friends. Would I tell would I speak to one of my closest friends that way? No, there's no love in that self-talk. So I had to go back and meditate and go back and go into all of these times in my busiest of months where I kind of lost myself in the grind of what I do for a living. And I had to go back and I had to hug myself and tell myself how much I love myself unconditionally, no condition. I had to look back at the times where I feel like I dropped the ball. No one cared, right? A song started a millisecond late. Woo, Jamie's mad at herself. I had to look at that room. No one even noticed. They don't know the show, right? So I have to, it's one of those things that until I'm aware, I'm unaware. As soon as I'm aware, I have to pause and look at it. Or I even say, right now, I talk to that inner child, right now, this is not the time for this. I need to go do this and take care of this, but I'm going to come back to you and we're going to work through this. And that is something that's really new for me. And I'm really actually trying that a lot this week of placing that on the shelf so I can do what I need to do. But the hardest part for me is to come back to it because I want to avoid that discomfort. But we all know there ain't no comfort in growth. And so then I literally, you hear me saying this out loud. I'm a verbal processor. This is the conversation I'm having inside my head, if not out loud by myself. No shame, right? This is what's going on inside and outside. I'm hearing the inner critic or I'm feeling the bitterness. And then I have to either I need to pause and come back to this, or I'm going to identify what it is, why I'm feeling that way. And then say, hey, remember, Jamie, you have the power. You're the only one who has the power. You have the choice. You're the only one that can choose for you. You're the only one that can take that step. No one's going to do it for you because it's not their job. It's not their story. It's not their responsibility. And so I am in a place of extreme accountability. And I will go off on a tangent and a rant and I'll be, oh my God, I'm a victim of this. And I need that coach or that moment to say, woo, hold on. Wait a minute. Who's talking here? Is it your soul? Is it your ego? Who's talking here? Let's identify who this is. Because I've broken alignment. But the accountability piece, I will be the first one to, have that toxic mental cycle and then have the realization and say, hold on, where am I accountable? And at the end of the day, I'm always accountable. It's no one's fault, right? It's my choice. It was my choice to stay there. I felt like I was stuck there. I had to stay in a corporate. I have to stay, right? I look back now and I say, ooh, you know what? That corporate environment burnt me down so much that I actually did become toxic to their organization. It has taken me a year to even be able to be accountable for that because I felt so victimized. I felt so hurt. How could they do this to me? I grinded so hard so they could see my value. I grinded till I bled and cried and had a full-on additional breakdown. I still wasn't valued. How can you be valued when you're in the middle of a breakdown? Because you allow it to be broken down. You let it happen. It's like watching a train going in a crash and you're saying, well, I think I am going to stay on this train. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, you know exactly what's happening. So are you going to get off the train or are you going to choose to stay in a place you do not belong, that does not serve you, that is hurting you emotionally, mentally, physically, all the words, right? Are you going to be a plant in dry sand? And I'm not talking about, a cactus or a succulent. They're made for that. I'm talking about a flower. Are you okay being in a dry, sandy pot, no water, no sun? What does that plant look like, Portia?
Dead and gone.
Dead and gone. How fast does a dying plant perk up with just even a dash of water? And I'm not even talking a full switch over from one pot to another. I'm just talking about a little sprinkle of fertile soil, a little sprinkle of water, a little bit of sunlight. Is that plant going to start to flourish again? It is. but we have to choose. Or else we're just a victim in a sandy pot wondering why the world is against us. It's not. You're choosing to hold yourself back.
Ooh, 100%. And I got to add to that, Jamie, really quick. It reminds me of the quote when people say the grass is always greener on the other side. And we both know that there's a little caveat in that quote where the grass is only greener where you water it. So we're going to take a quick break right here on Group Portia. Everybody, stick with us. We will be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back right here on Group Portia. I'm joined remotely with my soul sister, the energy producer, Miss Jaime Kravitz. And we were just having a great conversation, of course, about shifting our mindset and perspective and also acquiring our authentic self. So, Jaime, I got to ask this. As we know, and you mentioned this in the first segment about how you noticed that you were falling into that hamster wheel of bitterness at one point when you were still in your corporate job, doing all the right things, being that loyal employee. And as we both know, Jaime, when we are making a transition or a pivot in our life from shedding one identity of ourselves and acquiring a new one, there's some grief that comes in with that. And as we both know, grief does not make any exceptions. And so, Jaime, can you share with our listeners how you navigated that transition from this corporate place to now where you are today and shedding that identity to acquire the one you have today?
Beautiful. It's a beautiful question because I never found such gratitude in grieving. Honest to God, Portia, in these past 3 months, I don't know if I've ever grieved this much in my life. I'm just talking about the personal grief I'm going through as I even grow in this place where I am now. Last week, I was grieving the lack of self, and I was grieving the self-abandonment that I had this month, right? And I was an emotional wreck over it because I'm feeling off. I'm feeling tightened up, overworking again. But I'm overworking for my own business, but I'm learning my bandwidth and I'm having to learn that in a whole new light. But going back to that original grief, girl, if you're going to run from grief, it's going to chase you. And it's going to come out in the weirdest ways with the wrong people. When I have not properly allowed myself to be safe in my own safe space and properly grieve, it's like you're a pot of boiling water with the lid on it and the heat is consistent. And eventually that's going to start boiling over and making a mess, and it may even cause a fire, and it may even burn down the whole house. Am I willing to lose my house over this grief? Number one. I wish I thought about that sooner. I wish I had started that grief process of transition even earlier on. But in my mind, I was optimistic, like, oh, this transition, it's needed. But I'm so optimistic at how smooth it's going to go, going from the corporate life to going on my own. And I'm going to tell you, I was shocked at how rough it was. I thought, okay, it's my choice. I'm making these steps. I couldn't even quit properly. I was chastised for the way that I resigned. That messes with your head slightly, right? And then I had to grieve. Number one, I had to grieve that I no longer have a team or support system or work family. And that I think was the hardest because I'm a community person. And I know I'm going into this solopreneur lifestyle and I am an independent lone wolf at heart, right? I don't need anyone. I'm hyper independent, but hold on. I'm also realizing that that is a little trauma that I'm now, once again, I am having realizations on a constant basis. Even just in this segment, I just had 17 realizations. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm realizing, oh, that there's trauma there. The fact that I don't feel like I can let go or ask for help, that is trauma. The fact that I feel like I need to rely on just myself, right? We're all over the place. There's a lot of grief here, right? If you do not grieve, I'm trying to get back to this right here. If you do not grieve, it will break you down. If you run from the discomfort of grief, it will continue to chase you. And I'm going to tell you, when you're in grief, even if you're denying the fact of it, your energy is different. You cannot attract when you're in grief. You know what you're going to attract? More grief, more negativity. Not saying that grief is negative. Grief is healthy. Because if you can't grieve through it, you can't grow through it. At the other end of grief is growth, and it is so stinking uncomfortable. Let me tell you, sobbing in my office, and honestly, at that moment, not even knowing why I'm crying, I had to dig deeper there. What is this? Why? Pulling at strings, right? But on the outside of that grieving moment were the lessons learned. And I know I'm supposed to be talking about the past, but I'm talking about today. I'm talking about yesterday. I'm talking about the day before yesterday, because I want to show the world that even in a solopreneur lifestyle, none of us are perfect. And I am on a continual growth journey, because that is what life is, continual learning. That's what life is in general. So I have to say that it was a longer journey than I planned. And the grief comes back. It's not like you just grieved it and it's gone forever and you're never going to have a feeling about it again. It's popped right back up. I see old colleagues all the time. Some of those old colleagues are my clients, which is beautiful. And it's beautiful to see them and work with them in a deeper capacity, and to hear that they say that I'm only one that they'd want to work with to do this because of the relationship we have. God, that feels good, right? But those tiny, tiny baby steps are so, so crucial.
Jamie, I gotta say, one, I applaud you for your vulnerability. And as we both know, when we step into the space of being solopreneurs, business women, business owners, vulnerability in our society holds this negative connotation.
In my eyes, it used to, and now it's all I know and do.
And Jamie,
it is a way of life now. Like, why would I be anyone else, right? Why would I want to be anyone else or be less vulnerable when you may not even know yourself?
Come on, in that order. And Jamie, for you, for our listeners who are tuning in, you mentioned about when there is grief, there is growth, there is grace. For our listeners who are tuning in, Jamie, how can they, whatever position they're in their life, whether they're making that transition from being in the corporate space to being full-time entrepreneur or pivoting careers, how can they find grace within their grieving process?
Step one is just eliminating the shame of it. I spoke into this actually about a week ago. I think the reason that I personally have been feeling so comfortable with my emotions lately in these waves is because I zoom out again and I think about, 7 to 10 years ago, where I was then. And I was in another state and I was at a whole different rock bottom. That being said, I have so much gratitude because I look back at a time in my life where I actually couldn't feel anything. I could not feel an emotion. I could not feel physical pain. And it terrified me so deeply because I didn't feel human, right? And then that feeling created more anxiety and more depression until it circled into a crippling whirlwind that brings you to the bottom, right? When I zoom out, it's crazy. It's crazy. I can't even imagine saying these things a year ago. And I've been in this business for my own just about a year and a half. I can't even believe I'm saying these things, right? But I can now I'm so grateful that I'm crying. Is that weird, right? That's weird. I'm grateful that I'm sobbing. It's not weird because I personally know what it's like to not be able to feel. And so I find a very interesting, curious beauty when I'm grieving. And I'm finding a odd comfort in grieving because it's releasing those pent-up emotions. And when you're working and grinding, there's months where are busier than others, and you overbooked yourself. Woo! I thought, I can do this. I used to do this all the time. Well, I wasn't also in charge of everything else in the business, right? I felt like I was super involved. I sold a thing and I'm performing. It's really different when you are the CEO, the CFO, the marketing. You're doing all the jobs, right? But I've got to tell you, the ability to grieve is a blessing now. And if we can all change our mindset and realize that, grieving just to grieve, it's going to release. But grieving and then kind of looking back at that and trying to pull it apart. Because sometimes we grieve and we quote unquote, and I've said it many times, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling immense grief and I cannot put a finger on it. And it's always gone back to self-abandonment. And that is something I was never aware of a year or so ago, this self-abandonment. But it's true. The disalignment. And then the disalignment, feeling bitter. So you see how these puzzle pieces come together. And so when I'm feeling certain ways, it's like I'm making my own little map of a puzzle. Okay. What are the outside things going on? What are these factors? Where have I disconnected from self and maybe overserved? Where have I actually cut out time for rest and filling my cup? Have I? I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't. I'm going to tell you right now, I have not. Am I doing that this weekend because I desire to and I knew that I could potentially have a breakdown if I didn't stop, unplug, reset, get into nature, journal, find gratitude, just pause and look back at what has happened since July 2021. You look back every now and then when you're like, wanting to feel yourself or you need that self-validation. But when have I actually paused and journaled on where I am, right? I haven't, because I, quote unquote, haven't had time to do it. I've been putting my rest and my own health on the back burner, and it's bringing up those emotions of prior Jamies. The prior Jamie who wore that workaholic as a badge of honor. And now I'm like, no, Jamie, you've come too far. And I need the accountability to remind me that I've come too far to literally go back into a hole and go down. Now, will I ever go down a hole and go back down? Absolutely not, because I have the right support in place. And I'm working on creating all the appropriate new layered habits that will help me be a sustainable business owner. But rest is something that I personally need to work on. And building in like that time for me once a day. When you said that, I felt something. And honestly, I felt a little envy. If I can be honest, I felt envy and I'm like, dang, that sounds so good. I'm so excited for Friday and Saturday because I'm excited because I just want to do some art and I just want to be by some water and I just want to do those things. Why am I not doing even a tiny little thing for myself when it can help me even just refill my bucket a little more? Even if you can get me off of ground zero bucket energy, right? Even just that splash of water, right? I cannot serve at my highest level. I can serve from an empty bucket. Is it healthy? Absolutely not. Will it lead to a whole station or day or week of grief? Probably, right? Is it worth it? No, but I actually had to go through the busiest month of my career in life and feeling this way to learn, once again, this grief to growth. You can't grow unless you're actually looking at the lessons and being accountable and deciding that you desire something different. Because when you desire it, that's when you can start attracting it and working on it. But if you don't desire it, it ain't going to happen. I wanted to have more time for myself, but I truly desire to carve that time out because it would feel so good and it would serve me, which would then serve every single client. Now I know. Now I know. And now I have to do the work. I have to literally set the time aside. I have to, it's not even in my calendar, right? I need to actually schedule it in, block the time off. And then the next step is actually doing it.
That part.
That
That part. You know, I got to say, when it comes to manifesting the life that we desire, I think a lot of us unfortunately grab the horse by the tail. We put it out into the universe and we don't really take the necessary action steps to put the vision to fruition. So we're going to take a quick break right here on Group Portia. Everybody stick with us. We will be right back. Everybody, welcome back right here on Group Portia. I'm joined remotely with the energy producer herself, Miss Jaime Kravitz, and we were continuing our conversation, of course, on transition and transformation and using grief to find growth within ourselves. And so, Jaime, if one of our listeners was interested in connecting with you and learning more about you, is there a website or social media handle you can share with us today?
Absolutely. So when I created this business, I wanted it to be super easy. And I'm going to say I am blessed because there is no other business out there with this name. So it's so easy. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at the energy producer. Simple as can be. Also, my website would be www.theenergyproducer.com. But my favorite place to send friends who are interested in what I do, what I have coming up, who am I? Who do I serve? How do I get to your website? I send them actually to my Instagram and they click the link there. It's the campsite.bio/the energy producer. And from there, I not only have the ability for you to send me a message, you can send me a love note if you want, right? You can also request a quote and be like, hey, I have an idea. You don't even have to have an event date on the books, right? Do you have an idea? What are you looking to work on? Do you have a time frame? Do we have a season? Give me some information and we can make a call and we can get that ball rolling. But my favorite thing on this campsite.bio is the upcoming public events page that I've been able to share any of the events that are open to the public. I mark which ones do have cost or registration involved. And the ones without the asterisk are free. Show up, have fun. And I have found that a lot of potential clients have actually showed up to some of these events as their way of interviewing me, because really it's hard to buy what you can't see and what you can't feel. And I'm not a product. I am a service that is fully aligned in letting this gift shine. And it's unlike anything you probably have ever seen on an event. We're not just your average DJ. When someone says they need a DJ, I got a DJ for you. We're more than that, right? We're the whole vibe.
In that order. So if you guys want to connect with Jaime, you can definitely do on any social media platform of your choosing. So Jaime, look, I got to get to the nitty gritty. You already done said it. Everybody needs a hype woman. You put the high in the word hype. So, Jamie, I want to know, how do you prepare to bring this radiant energy that you have for every event, right? What gets you hyped up? Do you have like a set playlist that you play to get yourself ready? Or, do you create the playlist the day of before the event, coordinate your outfits? Walk us through that, Jamie. How do you hype yourself up to be the hype woman at every event that you produce and coordinate?
There's a lot to this, girl. So buckle up, babies. Okay. So first of all, it's not necessarily that everyone needs a hype woman. You don't need it. You need water. You need food. I believe everyone deserves a hype woman. I feel like you innately deserve someone who's going to hype you up, who is going to see you for your authentic, true values and gifts, and someone who's going to literally not only desires to, but is going to do everything in their power to make you and your event shine brighter than a diamond. Full stop. Step 2. Okay. Moving on to the next step. How do I prepare for these events? Every event is different because I'm serving in corporate world, right? We're doing conferences. Some of my favorite things are curating women's conferences, women's events, building those timelines. Curating music is not DJing, right? DJing is showing up. You got a general set list. You got a list of things you got to play, and then you kind of flow. What we're doing, yeah, I do that. I do that at the bars and the restaurants and many times, and I love it. It's my artistic time. But on a private event, like with a client's event that has a soul-aligned purpose or mission, even a wedding, your biggest day of your life, right? You deserve someone who's going to prepare for you. First off, you deserve someone who's going to have every single document printed with extra copies for every other vendor when they show up. That's step 1 in preparation. Step 2, you're going over all of the music that has been selected by the client formality-wise. Those must plays, those play if possibles. I'm also reviewing the do not plays. There are some clients that literally, they will lose their mind if T Swift plays at their event and they have a personal vendetta, right? I don't care who your vendetta is against musically. I don't care. It's not my event to have a vendetta over. You don't want T Swift, you ain't getting T Swift, right? There's a bajillion songs I can pull and work with, but I literally, right before this call, I was curating a playlist for the Moms on a Mission Women's Conference for mompreneurs, right? And I'm having so much fun. I got my stank face on because every time I hear a song that's like a perfect fit, if there is no stank face, it don't make the list, right? It is something that I feel, right? I have the direction from the clients, but then it's the time invested to prepare. No 2 weddings are the same, nor do they deserve to be. If you're paying for a custom curated event, it should be custom. Are there certain playlists that we like to pull and play with? Absolutely, right? I've got the perfect playlist curated for an acoustic cover dinner set, right? I can use that in many ways, but it's a resource at that point. So I'm preparing all of that music. I am loading the vehicle with all of the audiovisual equipment. And I'm talking all of it: lights, speakers, cables, DJ rigs, audio mixers, everything under the sun. We're going to make sure that we have that pull sheet and we're going one by one, making sure everything's there. Because we're a solopreneur, we don't have a warehouse speaking call and say, oh man, we forgot the microphones. That's not a thing. We have to be accountable for ourselves at every turn, right? So we're making sure all of our equipment is there. We're reviewing even the quote. Is there anything I'm missing? Is there any notes in our planning database? So clients, especially weddings, they have their own internal planning system where all of this goes. And then I'm going to go back into all the notes and make sure everything's there and it's in a beautiful binder. The other questions you've asked about is how I hype myself up. I'll be honest. As a projector, I'm really not an energetic being. And I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever heard because I'm the energy producer. I produce energy and I naturally produce it, but I never really looked deeper into how and where is that energy really coming from. It's not actually being generated by myself. So when people come up to me and they say, I love your energy, I've come to realize, and it's so beautiful, that I can really turn that around and compliment that person because I'm actually reflecting and amplifying the energy of the person in front of me. I can go into a venue and I am focused on what I'm doing and I have that grind energy. Let's get these things done. I'm always having fun though. Got some music on the background. Like, why not make it fun? Smiling, laughing with my fellow vendors, building those relationships. God, that's the best, right? But it's the actual people at the event that supercharge me like a battery. It's unexplainable power. Now, with great power comes great responsibility because there are people that are at events that are bringing in all their bad energy and all their shadows. Ooh, we have to personally almost protect ourselves in a bubble, and not let it affect us. We've had men come up to us and tell us that we need to XYZ. And at that time of vulnerability in the middle of an event, that gives a very physical reaction to me because I take what I do so seriously, right? I'm honored by what I get to do. So getting antagonized, it's going to get my nervous system all out of whack. What did I do wrong? Was it really me? Like that spiral, it's something I've had to work on stopping. There's no room for this right here. And it's also not my responsibility to manage that person's emotions. I don't know where they're coming from and why they're feeling the negativity, but it's not for me. So I have to be careful on whose energy I allow to penetrate my body aura energy, but it's always my clients, okay? Now, in working with other companies, we're working with all kinds of clients, aligned or non. Anybody's a paycheck, right? That is not how I operate now. So I'm proud to say that I get the most beautiful energy from my clients and their family and friends because we are so aligned. We've already built this beautiful relationship and we've gone over all their vision with a fine-tooth comb and have been given the freedom to do what we needed to do to make that event bomb, right? So from there, it's really stepping into that gratitude for getting to live in my purpose, getting to live in my gift for a living, full-time, and allowing the energy of those other people that we're hyping up just naturally by being us. The secret is just being, if I could be honest. I look back, we're going to zoom out again. We're zooming out. I zoom out and I look at old Jamie 2+ years ago, entertaining, and she's doing it all. Okay. I can see her. And you know what she was doing? She was killing herself to be recognized and to get the validation she was craving. She wanted to feel valued. Always goes back to that. Oh, if I grind more, I'll be valued more. But the people I was seeking validation from and value from were never in the room. So what was I doing? I was overperforming for validation that would never come because the only person that can validate me is me. Why was I seeking outside validation? Now, who's going to give it to me? And if I can be honest, I am blessed that at the end of an event, I am getting the affirmation that I so dream of. And it's very weird for me because I'm so used to receiving that as being an entity and a cog in another business, a cog in another wheel. And it feels different. It's really difficult, honestly, for me to receive. I can receive well, actually, but it's the process, the actual processing of it and actually letting it land. Because I can hear it. But if I don't take a moment and feel it and feel their genuine, authentic gratitude and their authentic, grateful compliments and the great things they have to say, what am I doing, right? If I don't take a moment to let that actually sink in, I let it sink in when I was part of someone else's business. It felt so good because I worked so hard. I was manic. Honestly, I look back and I was a manic woman. I was manic. I was too much. I was too much. And I never want to say that. Honestly, actually, hold on. I got to go back. I have the ick factor for even saying that. I'm never too much. Was I manic then? Yes. I am just enough for everyone, but I was pushing myself and grinding myself for the wrong reasons. And so in this case, it is allowing myself to actually be me more. And I realized being me does not require manic energy. it actually requires a grounded version of myself that is really nice and beautiful and new and energized at the same time. I'm very grateful for it.
And truthfully, Jamie, you found what I call the blend factor, not balance, blend. You are able to have the life that you want, be the person who you are, and also find that rest and restoration within yourself. So we're going to take another quick break right here on Group Portia. Everybody, stick with us. We will be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back right here on Group Portia. Well, Jamie, my soul sister, the energy producer, I thank you so much for honoring my special day and being my guest. I really appreciate you. I knew this conversation was definitely worth the wait. We planned this back all the way in July, and it took all this time to get here. But hey, in divine timing. Jamie, we're going to be wrapping up soon. And I always love to save this question for last, as you've left us with so many nuggets, so much words of wisdom, so many mindset hacks, and so many ways for us to break free from the societal narrative and embody our authentic self. What words of inspiration, Jamie, can you leave with our listeners today?
Girl, I have a few. I've got a few because lately, honestly, I've been honored and blessed to be helping other women find their next calling. That's not even on my list of things to do, right? But it kills me to see other women, other people stuck and not using their gift. So what I want to ask our listeners is, do you know what your innate gift is? If you don't know what that innate special thing that you were born to be here for, maybe now's the time, maybe today's the day to take that little baby step, because everything that I've done are baby steps. People look at my journey and they like, oh, you never could have been crippled with depression and anxiety and losing years of your life because you're so energetic and positive now. I'm only like this because of the struggles I've been through, which have led me here. Every corporate job, every stepping stone I made led me to this place divinely. If I had not worked on Disney Cruise Line, I would not have that Disney training of high-end customer service and performing. The moment that you are around people, you are on stage, right? All of these gifts, even the worst of the gifts that broke me down, I am now looking back, I'm like, oh, thank God for that. Thank God for that bad relationship that brought me to rock bottom, because if I had not gone to rock bottom, I would never be here today. I would still be in North Carolina, not living my truth. And there's nothing wrong with my life that was there without that negative person, right? I was a first grade teacher. I thought I was living in my truth, but I knew something was missing, but I wasn't aligned and I wasn't aware. I thought that was my gift, but I look back now and I zoom out and I'm like, I was a caged lion. Because when I look at myself, I am not a person who was made to be in the same room every single day. I'm a person who's made to be out there connecting with others. And the moment I started embracing the way that I actually was made is when things started falling into place. So I want to ask those listeners, what is your innate gift? And if you don't know, when are you going to take the time to start pulling at those strings and looking into what lights you up? What is something that you would do for free because it brings you such purpose and joy? That's the direction you want to go into. I would do what I do for free because I love it. So, I mean, y'all can't see me, but I am flushed with energy and light, and I can feel my chest just resonating. It's like coming off of me, right? So start tapping into what that gift is. I also want to talk about, when are you going to choose you? When? Because if not now, when are you going to choose? Because it is a choice to stay where we don't belong. So why are we waiting, right? I waited a while because I was told from society to do the safe thing. Funny thing about safety, you got to look at it in a different, fresh mindset. And everyone else is trying to condition me to think that safety was staying where I was because it came with insurance and it came with that support. But was I dying? 1000%. So really, they were wrong. They were wrong. They were actually part of the problem keeping me there, because the second I pulled myself out of that dusty pot, was there grief? Yes, but were those tears the water that started filling my plant's soil? Yes. And then I realized, holy cannoli, I have full control of my destiny now. I have no one else to point a finger at or be angry or be resentful. And I can look back and say, wow, when they called me toxic and I took it so personally and I put meaning on it, I am now grown enough and accountable enough to say, actually, wow, Jamie, they were right. You're not a toxic person, because that to me honestly triggered the bananas out of me, because I know what a toxic person looks like. Was I toxic to their structure and environment because I was so bitter and I was feeling so undervalued? And did they see the power of that energy infiltrating? I now look and I'm like, wow, actually, touche, you were right. But why did it get so bad? Because I kept being told to stay. And I finally had to stop and be like, where's the risk? Where's the bigger risk? Staying here or taking that leap and flying, because I don't have any other choice. Now I have choice. I could fall if I wanted to, if I desire to fall. But if I desire to succeed and fly, I am going to do it. And you know why there's fire underneath there? There's no net. So that bit of pressure, like a diamond, right? That pressure is forcing me to put myself out there and start finding my gifts, finding the right coaches and the right people, friends, support system, removing the non-aligned people by letting them go or letting things come to a head, right? Who gets to come with me on this journey? Because once again, that's my choice. Do I keep the people around that are bringing me down? Why would I do that? This is my life. This is my journey. And no one questions that. No one deserves to question that or stop me from doing what I do, because I know that it is soul aligned and I'm serving my life's purpose. And so what is that risk, right? The biggest risk was staying. The biggest risk was not leaping. And what was it costing me to stay? When I had that aha moment, someone asked me, what is it costing you? And I was like, it's costing me my mental health again. And I realized that's a non-negotiable now. I've come too far to go back down. And why would I give that power to someone else so that I could be a cog in their wheel and support their dreams in their life? It doesn't serve you, girls and guys. It doesn't serve you. So what's it going to take? What's it costing you to stay where you are? And then the last step really is making sure the right support and accountability is in place, because I know I need accountability. And so I learned through not having as much accountability with certain coaches that now I now have, I'm going to pay you to hold me accountable, because you know what? I was accountable before. It was easier in the corporate setting because there's a timeline, there's a deadline, there's someone on your butt. When you're a solopreneur, the only person that's on your butt besides your support team, if you have it, it's you. And you have to be your own accountability. And I'm going to be honest, it's not easy. It is not easy. So get that right support and then lean in. I would not be able to have this amazing referral-based, thriving business that requires no money in marketing besides a website. And that's what I got to say, Portia, girl.
Mic drop. That's all I got to say. Look, y'all heard from the energy producer herself. She has left all of us, even myself, with food for thought, words of wisdom, and ways for us to really shed the corporate armor and embody our authentic self, and really keep in mind, what is it costing you? I love to ask my friends this question: what's the hurt of taking a risk? One of my mentors said it best: risk is the down payment for success. Well, everybody, that was Jaime Kravitz, the energy producer that you heard from. And that concludes another episode of Grew Up Portia. Everybody, thanks for listening. Now I'm off to party for my birthday. Peace.